Yo, what is up, my dudes? Back at it again with another video. So today we got something a little bit different for you guys. My buddy needed some work done on his Miata, so we'll be doing that today, well, in the next couple days. What's wrong with the car is that I think one of the valve springs broke. That's what I was told anyways. We're buying a full new refurbished head, and we're gonna just swap the head over, new timing belt, oil change, coolant, all that. So we're gonna have to get this head off, and when we have the new one back, put it all back together. That's simply what it is. So we're gonna start tearing this thing apart. It's pretty much stock. It has an exhaust on it, coilovers. My buddy wrapped it himself, but it's been sitting for a while, so it's like some of the wrap has cracked or torn. I'm pretty sure he's gonna redo it. It didn't look too bad when he first did it, but the car's been sitting for a while because of the issues that it has. So I think he's going to be doing it again, but he just wants to drive it. He hasn't driven it in so long, and he misses the car. So he dropped it off to me. I'm going to do the brakes, and we're going to swap the head over to a new head and be golden and be ready to go. He just wants to do like a little bit of sliding or whatever, nothing too crazy. He may turbo it in the future, not too sure. For now, he just wants to drive it. So we're just going to get it back on the road and get it running strong for him. So I have never done one of these. I've never taken a head off of a Miata, but you know, I'm pretty sure it's the same as everything else. I'm gonna remove the hood. We have some light and some space to work with. Get the car in the air and get cracking. So as far as it looks, it's pretty simple. You know, we gotta drain the coolant, drain the oil, a throttle cable, intake piping, and just basically get the harness unplugged. We're gonna take the radiator out so we have some room to work with. Undo all the belts, header, stuff like that. I may pull it with the intake manifold because I don't know how difficult it is to get to the bolts underneath, but it doesn't look too difficult, so I may just take it off. Do that, pull the head, and we should be good. So I'm gonna get it in the air and drain the fluids. All right, we got the oil draining. Or while that's happening, I'm gonna start unplugging some of the harness. Alright, for the most part, I've got the harness off of the head. I just got to remove a ground here, and there's the ground here you have to remove. I already got that one, and then basically the harness just pulls on it on over. I'm going to remove the fuel rail and then the intake manifold, and then we have to remove the EGR and then drop the header, then remove the belts, and then we can start pulling the head. There was a plug, there's a sending unit plug back here for the coolant temp sensor. That thing was a pain to get off. A lot of the stuff on the back side of the engine is pretty hard to get to because of limited space. From here, there goes a tube across to the brake booster. I removed that just so I can have a little bit more space. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the radiator, and then we can start getting the manifold off and do all that jazz. Alright, cool, rad's out. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the belts. This is the AC and power steering belt, and then this belt is the alternator and water pump belt. And from there we can start taking the fuel rail out and then start undoing the manifold and the EGR to take that off, drop the exhaust manifold. And then from there we can start removing the covers, set the engine at top dead center, take the timing belt off, and basically pull the head. And then we'll be waiting on the new head to get here. There's a code back here on the head that I can't read yet. We need that code so we can order the new head. I'm pretty sure it's just BP05 something something. But we need that for the dealer we're buying the reman head off of before we can order it. So as soon as this comes off, I can get the code, get the head ordered, and then we can throw the new head on, new gaskets, intake manifold gasket, exhaust manifold gasket, head gasket, cam seals, and get this thing back on the ground and get it running. I am going to pull the belts and get started with taking the intake manifold off. So I figure while I'm here, I would set the engine to TDC. There's this cool little timing piece of plastic right here, and then it might be hard to see, but I had to mark them because I couldn't really see them. There's a mark right here above my finger and right here above my finger. This one is the TDC mark, and this one is 10 degrees, I think before or after. Or that's TDC and that's 10 degrees before. I can't remember, I think it spins like that. But I wanted to set it at TDC while I'm here so that I don't have to worry about it when I'm start taking it apart. Alright, belts are off, timing's set. Found the engine does spin clockwise, so that's good. Next, we're going to take off the intake manifold. So what we need to do is disconnect the return and the feed. Disconnect some more vacuum lines, some coolant lines from the IAC to the coolant housing. Then just disconnect the intake manifold. Also the EGR tube, and then we can start taking the header off, and then finish that boy. Okay, fuel line's disconnected. Fuel rail's next. And then we can start getting the intake manifold off.
everywhere. And pull the injectors out.
Alright, cool. So we got the EGR out. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. If you know anything about EGR, obviously, it's exhaust gas. It gets fed from the exhaust manifold or sometimes ports in the head. From the heat, they can be extremely tight and brittle and break, and that just came out really super easy. So EGR is off. Now we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts for the intake manifold and 2 of these stabilizer bolts. It basically keeps the manifold off of itself from hanging. It just stabilizes it more. We have to take those 2 out, and then the manifold should come right out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get cracking on that and try and get this manifold out. I'm using the double wrench trick. Put one on, close end, put it like that. Boom, breaks them right loose. Boom. Cake. Alright, I got all the bolts out. I got the 2 down there. By far the most difficult one is the one under this cylinder 1 runner. I had to use an extension, a swivel, and a long socket. It's pretty tight. So this should be ready to come out now. Just gonna pull it up and out. Oh! Sweet. The hard part is over. Wow, these things come with oil coolers from the factory? Nice, dude. I'm not sure. I know on Hondas they have this bracket. It helps hold the manifold. I'm not sure how detrimental this is, so I'm gonna ask him, see what he wants to do about taking it out. I've taken it out on every one of my Hondas and it hasn't had an issue, so I'm gonna see what he says. I'm gonna contact a couple other people who I know have Miata, see if that thing is detrimental at all. If it's not, I'm just gonna take it out, leave it out. It doesn't seem to be part of any other bracket, so we'll see what happens. But sweet, intake manifold's off, onto the exhaust manifold. I don't think I'm necessarily gonna take the header off of the car. I may just unbolt it from the head and pull it over and see if I can get away with that, because right where the flange meets the downpipe, or the downpipe, I mean, those bolts from heat and moisture can be super rusty. I don't want them to break. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna loosen up all the bolts, take the nuts off, and then see if I can just pull the manifold over and get away with just doing that, because to pull the header off, if something would break, I kind of just don't want to deal with that. So I'm just gonna take the header bolts out and pull it away and see if I can get away with that. All right, bolts are off, nuts are off. See if I can get away with just pulling it away from the head. Doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Well, I went to the store, got some impact stuff and a swivel, impact swivel, and I attempted to get the 3 bolts off the nuts. I got 2, and the third one I just couldn't get it the right angle. I assume you have to undo the mount and move the motor up. Didn't want to do that. I tried pulling this off as hard as I possibly could. It wouldn't move. Eventually did move it enough. It's off. Once the head is off, I am going to lift this up onto the block and then go under and get that 3rd nut off. And then we're going to put all new nuts, because that one is kind of bitched up. We're going to be moving forward still with this. I'm going to get the valve cover off, get the timing cover off, water pump pulley off. I'm going to have to drop the sway bar, and then I'll be able to get the crank pulley bolt off, and then we should be Gucci from there just to pull the head right off. So let's get cracking. Okay, so I was mistaken. There is no valve spring damaged, broken valve spring. What it is, if you can see the seat right there on the bottom, right here, it's mushed. So either the valve spring seat is not there, or somehow that spring, the pressure is just it's pushing its way down into the head. Same with the next one, it's just a little bit squished. Now that can cause the valve spring seat pressure to be lower than it should be, and it can possibly cause a keeper to come out of the valve and drop the valve. So that's why we have to replace the head. I thought it was a broken valve spring, and I thought he was just going to throw a whole new head in, but now that I see that, I remember him showing me a picture of that, and the seat, this spring is like pushing down into the head. So good thing that we're changing it now. We wouldn't want to drop a valve. it's getting warm out. He wants to drive this thing in the summer and just have fun with it. So I also need to go get a 12-point socket for the head studs because they're 12 points. So I'm gonna run back out to the store before they close. Hopefully I can get there before they close. Grab a 12-point socket and we back on to tear this thing apart. Only a few more things and it comes apart. So I will have to drop the front sway bar to get to that crank pulley bolt, but it is what it is. So from what I've been reading, top dead center is when the first mark is at the T line and the second one is at the 10 degree. That's what I'm seeing is top dead center. So when I put the second line at the T mark, these seem more straight up, but we're gonna see there's also marks inside here on the back, on the inside cover that'll line up with marks on the teeth. So I'm gonna take this front cover off and see what we have there. We are basically ready to start pulling the front section of this off, pull the timing belt off, and then pull the head. So I'm gonna pull this front cover off quick and see what we got back here. Got the bolts out. Should just pull away like that. Now to me, what I'm looking at, it looks off. It looks off a tooth. Maybe it is off a tooth. Well, I'm gonna turn the engine forward a little and see what happens to the timing marks. Now there's two marks here on the cams. One here on the intake cam, one here on the exhaust cam. And they are lined up with the bulge in the rear timing cover. So I'm gonna have to make sure when I put this back together that I get this thing on time, because it could have been out of time the whole time he's been driving it. That could be a thing. So I'll have to do a little bit more research and find where exactly top dead center is on these things and go from there. But we'll get her done. I got all the cover bolts removed, all that I can see. So now what we need to do is get this crank pulley bolt off, and then we can start taking the timing out, timing belt and tensioners. So we can this thing can take it off. Yep, perfect. Like that glove. There is a Woodruff key here. To get these crank pulley bolts or crank pulleys off, usually I just rock them back and forth. That Woodruff key also locks the crank gear that holds the timing belt to the crank itself. Crank pulley off. Okay, so looking at the timing gear on the crank, you can see that little notch on the top. There's also a triangle there. So that is top dead center, which would mean that on the crank pulley, when that second little notch goes to the T mark, that it's at top dead center. And that's what I had thought, but I had lined them both up. So that is top dead center. That's on point. You guys can see this mark right here is lined up, if you look at it straight on, with the embossment in the thing, along with this line here is lined up with that. Intake up, exhaust, cam pieces up. So timing was on point. That's good. I'm glad he wasn't driving around with it, you know, off timing or anything. We can go ahead and loosen the tensioner and pull the timing belt. Alright, timing belt's out. Just gonna pull the tensioner and the idler pulley. These should be replaced when you do the timing belt. I'm going to keep them until we have the new ones, but these should definitely be replaced. This, along with the spring. The spring usually doesn't need to be replaced, but some timing kits will come with it. We will have to move the cam gears over to the new head. Basically everything from this head, other than the camshafts and all the internal stuff, will be moved over. So the cam gears, the distributor stuff, most of the sensors, those will all be moved over to the new head. It's cool, these camshafts have a 6-point, so you can put like a crescent wrench on it, move it, hold it, whatever you need to do. Must be Loctited. Let me get a ratchet.
Those are broke loose. Gotta pull those out.
I'm going to get this cover off. Probably will need to put that on the new head soon.
Cool. Sweet.
Alright, other than that, everything's basic. This head is basically ready to come off. Probably we'll move the thermostat housing over to the new head because I don't think that comes with one. Obviously moving the distributor. Basically everything that goes onto this head over to the new one. So we can go ahead and crack these head studs loose. These things don't even really feel that tight, to be honest. I don't know what the torque spec is on them, but I would probably say it's not very much. I am using a big torque wrench, so more torque, but still, they don't feel that tight. All right, we got the head studs out. Head's ready to come off. I got my little flow joint down here. I'm gonna just set the head on it. We'll lift it up, put it on that, and then I'll probably check out for tonight. Come back tomorrow, do a little bit of prepping, cleaning. I'm gonna try and clean the block a little bit for him. We gotta do an oil change, coolant change too, but that'll all be done whenever the head is on. I'm just gonna clean up a little bit, some things, make it look a little bit nicer. Let's see what we can make happen right now. All right, I'm by myself. This is probably gonna be a little bit difficult, seeing as how I gotta lean over the car, but man, this is gonna suck unless I do a little bit of this.
Nope.
Nah, that's not gonna work. Okay, head gasket's still there. Oh, forgot to disconnect one of the heater core hoses. That would help, right? Yeah. Okay, that's off. Let's get this baby out. Oh wait, forgot about another hose that I didn't see. Oh shit. That's okay. You can take it off right there. There's a lot of stuff on the back side of this head that I didn't notice, didn't see, obviously, until now. These are just flint lines though. Luckily I didn't like pull too hard and tear one. Pretty sure that's it. The head is free. Wow! Look at that! That's an engine! Alright my dudes. The head is off. The surface does need cleaned up. I'm going to use some brake clean and some non-abrasive cleaning stuff because I don't want to gouge the deck. So I'm going to just do a little bit of cleaning, see what I can get off. Just make sure it's very ready for the head gasket. The head's off. It's ready to be disassembled. Basically just the thermostat housing, distributor, some of the hoses, some of the sensors. These engines are used in front wheel drive cars as well, like the Tracer, Protege. And the differences usually are camshaft specs. So they have the front wheel drive models usually have a little less aggressive camshaft. Also coolant routing is opposite, so that thermostat housing would be on this side and this stuff would be on the opposite side. At least that's what I've read. That's why we need this code here, this one that I'm gonna brake clean real quick. We need this code so that we can tell the people who have the reman heads, tell them that so they know which one to give us. Now, of course, it says BP05 because it's a Miata. It's a BP motor. 4-2. I think those numbers mean what year and then what week, or what week and then what year it was produced in. So either it was produced in the 4th week of 92 or it was produced in the 2nd week of 94. I don't exactly know how those numbers correlate, but yeah, so that's that. Head is off. The car is looking like a little bit less of a car, but still a car nonetheless. We're going to be getting cam seals, intake manifold gasket, exhaust manifold gaskets. We're going to put in a new water pump because it doesn't look too difficult and we're already in here, so we might as well do it. We're also going to do cam seals, shit like that, and get this thing ready back running. So I'm going to leave off here for that. So we'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned, guys. Deuces.